Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Sometimes canceling a TV package is a whole quest, especially if you're deaf. This is our first story. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Sorry, I have to speak with the account holder. That actually happened to my sister. We'll call her Amanda. A few years ago, there was a big sporting event my family all wanted to get together and watch. We decided to all get together in my sister's house to watch it. She needed to upgrade her TV package to include more sports channels, which she was able to do online on the TV provider's website. Great. We had a great day, watched the big event, and ate and drank far too much. The issue started when my sister wanted to cancel the subscription so as to not keep paying the higher rate for future months. Apparently, while you can upgrade your package and give the company more money online, removing the package was much more difficult. Of course. They said the only way to cancel the package was over the phone. My sister's deaf. So needless to say, this was an issue. My sister had been emailing and complaining to no avail. At the time this happened, my brother was temporarily staying with my sister, and he called the company for her. The exchange apparently went like this. I'm relaying what my sister and brother told me. Brother: Hi, I need to cancel the subscription to Extra Sports for Amanda's second name. Woman: I'll need to speak with Amanda. Brother: My sister's deaf, she can't speak with you over the phone. Woman: There's nothing I can do. I have to speak with the account holder if you want to cancel your subscription. Brother: You need to speak with a deaf person on the phone? Woman: Yes. Brother: And you don't see anything wrong with your current system? Woman: All changes have to be done by the account holder. Brother: Yes, exactly. And the only reason this was set up was because she was able to make changes online. You're saying she can't reverse the changes? Woman: All I can tell you is I have to speak with Amanda. At this point, my brother was telling my sister what was being said, and they came up with the perfect solution. Brother: Okay, 1 second. This is Amanda. My brother continued speaking, and it's worth noting he has a deep, husky voice. Woman: Brother: I need to cancel my sports subscription. Woman: I think you're the person I was just speaking to. Brother: No, I'm Amanda. You said you needed to speak with me. Woman: I thought you were deaf. Brother: And yet you insisted on speaking with me on the phone, so here I am. Please cancel my subscription. I have all the information you need to verify my identity. The subscription got canceled. Luckily for those living in the EU, there's a law that dictates that you must be able to cancel your subscription in the very same way you activated your subscription to prevent this kind of idiocy. And our second story: Refueling and drive-offs. Some years ago, I was working in a petrol station run by an Indian chap and his family. It was casual, and I only did Friday and Saturday nights, and sometimes a shift to cover someone who was sick. Anyway, the boss got a bee in his bonnet about drive-offs. That's when someone fills up, then leaves without paying. According to his little fantasy world, that was the fault of not only the driver, but of the person on service. He decides without consultation that he would simply deduct the cost of the drive-off from the wages of the person on the till. I came into work on Friday night, collected my pay from the drawer, and found I was about $120 short. As I generally only earned about $300, this was a big chunk. He explained that as I'd had 2 drive-offs totaling $120, he took it out of my pay. I explained that was illegal, and he had to pay the rest. He refused. Okay then. I close the store, turn off the lights, lock the doors, and go home. This is Friday night, possibly the busiest night of the week. The next morning comes, I get a series of increasingly desperate voicemails as I switched off my phone until I woke up. The signs haven't been changed, the stock hasn't been put up, the fuel delivery turned away, as no one was there to sign for it. Deliveries of food and drinks have not been accepted. Basically, the weekend was effed for the store. Eventually, the boss manages to get a hold of me, where he spends the next 10 minutes screaming down the phone, claiming I was inconsiderate, rude, and a bad person. I replied, "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes," and hung up on him. Eventually, his wife, who was the accountant, rang, gave a fairly sincere apology, said that my lost wages would be in my next paycheck, and to please come into work that evening. No, I need that cash now, this week. If it's in the drawer when I get there this evening, I'll work. Otherwise, I'll leave. The money was there. He refused to talk to me for several weeks, like I cared, but he didn't try that crap on me again. I don't understand why managers and business owners forget their businesses will crumble without employees. And our last story. Mess with my kids? That's going to cost you a pretty penny and get you in trouble with the law. So I've got an acquaintance, Richard, who's always been of the I know better than you school of thought. What makes it worse is that he literally received his PhD in physics from one of my country's top universities about 6 months ago, so he's not a dummy. The problem is that he thinks that because he's a physics genius, that means he knows better than everyone about everything. Just an example, my kids are in Montessori schools. This is a decision my wife and I reached together, and we're very happy with it. When he heard, he went on a 30-minute rant/lecture about how we're throwing our money away and Montessori is nonsense. When I told him that I had read and even professionally translated studies proving the opposite and gave him some real-world examples, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Sergey Brin, Jeff Bezos, Larry Page, etc., he still wouldn't admit he might not be 100% correct. Not the subject of this revenge, but so you understand the person we're dealing with. Another thing that's important to note is that Richard does not have Asperger's or anything similar. We joke about this all the time, and he's been tested from here until next week. He's just a really smart, socially oblivious pain in the butt. Given all of the above, I try to limit my time with him, but unfortunately, that isn't always possible. And last week, we were both at the same group braai for a friend, Jack, who was visiting back home from overseas. I've known Jack since grade school, so we brought our families and made it more than just a long time no see type thing. At some point later in the afternoon, my eldest, awesome, 10-year-old, came to me really sad and said she wanted to go home. When I asked her why, she said that Richard had just spent 15 minutes telling her that she shouldn't eat hot dogs because they're unhealthy, and he explained what went into hot dogs and what they're made out of. Awesome is not a vegetarian, knows that the beef and chicken she eats used to be live animals, and has never professed interest in vegetarianism. At the same time, when a kid is eating a hot dog, they don't care or want to know what's inside. We spoke a bit, I calmed her down, and told her to ignore Richard and go play with her siblings and her friends. Being a kid, she was thankfully easily distracted by something else and moved on. I didn't want to make a fuss with Jack or with Richard, so I just let it be. This turned out to be a mistake. About 30 minutes later, I heard Awesome scream and began crying. I ran over to her. Richard had come up to her and knocked her hot dog out of her hand, saying she shouldn't eat that garbage. I handed Awesome over to my wife for damage control, and I took Richard aside and told him that A, you don't ever talk to a man's kids without permission, B, you don't ever teach a man's kids without permission, and C, you sure as crap don't ever touch a man's kids without permission. He doesn't have kids, so I still wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. This turned out to be a mistake. Instead of doing the mature thing and moving on, he decided to double down on the hot dog issue. This was the hill he was going to die on. My kids shouldn't be eating hot dogs. Keeping Jack in mind, I disengaged and told him to stay the F away from my family. For the rest of the RV, I kept my eye on him, and he didn't come near them. Jack enjoyed, we all ate some good meat, end of the story as far as I'm concerned. This turned out to be a mistake. A few days later, we received a visit from a child protection officer who claimed that we were neglecting our kids, specifically Awesome. She came in and saw that while the house could have been cleaner, what house with kids is spotless, everything was fine. She sat with Awesome for a few minutes and asked her some questions, said everything was fine, and left. First thing I did was call a friend of mine who's a lawyer, just to be on the safe side. He said it looked to him like we were in the clear, but we should keep in touch with him just in case. Next, I began working the grapevine. It turned out that Richard had been offended how I treated him after the hot dog incident, so he filed a false anonymous report. Being Richard, and never thinking he could ever be wrong, he was even talking about it as if people should be proud of him for what he did. I had to make sure, though, so the last thing I did before dropping the hammer on him was confronting him personally. I set my phone to record and went to his house. He doubled down yet again, saying we were torturing Awesome. He's the one who called Protective Services on us, and he'd do it again in a heartbeat. This turned out to be a mistake. I'm not the violent type, but I swear I wanted to break the son of a bee in half. I told him that if he ever came near myself or anyone in my family again, I'd have a restraining order put out on him, and I'd make sure every single one of our shared acquaintances knew why. I listened to the recording in my car, and his admission that he had filed a false report came out clear as day. I immediately forwarded it to my lawyer, who said he'll get the ball rolling with some friends of his with the public prosecutor to see if we could get Richard in trouble, using his admission. Still waiting on that. The wheels of justice turn slowly sometimes. Then I enacted my actual revenge. See, after he got his PhD, Richard bragged about the new flat he'd be moving into as soon as he sold his current flat. To that end, he renovated most of his current flat, including putting in lots of new and expensive features that required lots of electrical work. He did the same on his new flat. He did most of the electrical work himself, which is a big no-no unless you're licensed. I called in an inspector on both of his flats who asked to see the certification on who did the electrical work. Obviously, there was no certification. It wouldn't surprise me if Richard, being Richard, he began arguing with the inspector that his work was good enough and he didn't need to pay someone else to do it for him. I haven't seen or spoken to Richard since, but I've heard that he had to bring in a certified electrician to examine every single change he made in both flats. This meant dismantling everything and having it inspected. Turns out the buyers of his old flat weren't happy with the delay in receiving the keys and were even unhappier when they learned why there was a delay. They walked away from the deal and are taking him to court. Because his sale fell through, he's now in the hole paying mortgages on 2 flats. I don't know if there was a fine levied against him, but I sure as hell hope so. Legal and smart. Revenge is sweet. 10 for 10. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.